symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer, your friend and mine, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Conrad Thompson, the last outlaw, is fired up. Just got out of the gym. What a heck of a workout, as we say. Got a good pump, Connie. No, very good workout. Kind of sad on one aspect. Football is winding down, isn't it, pal? And we're headed toward the last game of the year. I know we got spring football and lots of change going on. And Michigan ran out the best college coach in the game today after Saban left on his own accord. But, Connie, a lot going on, I would say, in the world of professional wrestling as we know it. It has – Connie, I guess those simplistic terms that I got to ask you a question.
All right.
In your fandom, and I know that you like football and you're a collector of sorts and you've got all kinds of different hobbies, I guess I'd say is, but in any specific line of work, business, mortgage business, real estate, professional wrestling, football, watch collecting, G's, meet and three, just any of those kind of business. Have you ever seen a 7-day stretch? And I may be off on the 7 days that we have just kind of gone through. And on top of that, the last 12 months is what I'll say.
No, I think, Eric and I did a show about 2023 and what a crazy year it was. And we tried to just go through it in order.
Oh, wow.
Of course, we saw the resignation of Vince McMahon and all the original allegations in the summer of 2022. But he came back in the very beginning of 2023. Stephanie resigned. And a year later, Vince has to resign, and this time for good. The world has really changed, Jeff, as you said. I mean, just since we last sat down, it's all a lot different. And we were supposed to be talking about Jerry Lawler today. And Lord, I hope we get a chance to, because I know that he was one of your heroes in professional wrestling. And when you think about great territory wrestlers and all-time great punchers and draws, and I mean, really a jack of all trades. He was great as a commentator. He was great as a heel. He was great as a babyface. But respectfully, I don't even know that people want to hear about Jerry Lawler today. I think he's an evergreen topic, and people want to hear about what's going on in wrestling. I think we have to talk about Vince McMahon. What I would prefer to do, as much as we can, is let's talk about him at the end, because, well, there's probably some folks who are listening to this that are going to be uncomfortable, and Lord knows I am. I mean, I don't know how to process all of this, if I'm honest. I've been in a bit of a head funk since I read the 67-page document on Thursday. But I do want to talk to you about everything else that happened in wrestling, because I think so many people tune into your show specifically to just, get your take on the business. And so much happened. I don't know that we can even really give it the full proper context. And maybe we'll come to that in the coming weeks or months or years. But to start last week with the announcement that Monday Night Raw, whatever the hell Michael Cole used to say, the longest episodic weekly, blah, 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 blah. It's been a staple of professional wrestling fandom for over 30 years. And now it's finally coming to an end in January of 2025. It will no longer be on free television, or I guess cable television. Not on USA, not on TNN, not on Spike, not going to Fox either. Behind a paywall on a streaming app. People have talked about this for a long time. Now we know it's finally going to happen. And something that I don't think a lot of people talked about in this was this may spell the end of the WWE network. I want to talk about the WWE network and what the resolution of all that may be, but were you surprised to hear that Monday Night Raw would be going to Netflix behind a paywall?
Connie, I am so disappointed in you.
Really?
Well, we're not even, we're not going to even dive into the NFL leaking their script. And it was
right. Hilarious.
It was on a Canadian broadcast. The Chiefs and the 49ers will be in the Super Bowl before they played the game. I'll just leave it here, Connie. Follow the money. I don't think there are no coincidences in life, only convergences. So I'll just kind of leave that right there. Conrad?
I thought it said the Lions were going. I thought that leak said the Lions. Was it the 49ers? Wow.
No coincidences, just convergences, pal. I was just going to, and also, back when we came out of the war, the Patriots actually.
Oh, wait. You know what? The leak said Reba McEntire, Usher, and Post Malone are slated to perform at the San Francisco 49ers and Baltimore Ravens Super Bowl matchup on February 11th. Oh, so they got the 49ers right, but they got the Chiefs wrong.
Did they say the Ravens in the league?
They said the Ravens, but I mean, if you're really watching the show, by the way, the show, I mean, the Chiefs games, they've become a show because of Taylor Swift.
It's unbelievable. 330 million new fans to the NFL. I don't see how that's possible.
Well, I thought that was brand value that was added, that they had added $300 million worth of value to the NFL.
Yes,
I thought was more believable. But still, you got to think what they want is Travis Kelce picking up Taylor Swift on the field with all the confetti, holding the Super Bowl championship, saying, I'm going on tour or whatever the hell. That's what they want.
And he was 10 for 10 in the first half yesterday. Just funny how all this works out.
It is.
Anyway, what a monster rating the NFL. Just continue. It's a juggernaut. And you know how you like numbers. I'm amazed, and this will dive into the Netflix, the Amazon Prime game on Thursdays, huge numbers throughout the year. You just like, how is that possible? And then you went into the Peacock game that was on streaming, and you could see all the online haters out there. I can't believe they put the playoff game on Peacock. And our man, a lot of chatter, Dave Green, said, get used to it. Everybody bitched when it went to cable. Things aren't going in reverse. And lo and behold, Raw debuted, 92? Here it is in 2024.
93, I think.
93, yeah. Because yes. I wonder, yeah, because that debuted into 93. So it was, yeah. Anyhow, and just, TBS on Saturday nights was on a national cable. They had migrated through the years, but the first prime time weekday, they were in the first place. They got there first, and everybody had their. I mean, you certainly did. Any wrestling fan, any Raw watcher had, hey, it's going to go here, going to go there, and everybody was going down the Amazon trail and blah 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 blah. But what do I think about Raw landing on Netflix? In a lot of ways, it's about time. The progression, the way the world is heading, Netflix, in a lot of ways, mirrors a lot of things. They were the first to really launch the streaming. They got in there first. So Raw was,
and I think they're still the only profitable streaming service around.
I saw that online in a couple of different places, and just continue to grow and to continue to grow. And back to the I always reference my own personal experiences, but in the TNA days when we're selling our program around the world, you would always have that mind. Man, I wish there was one big media conglomerate that could buy up Australia and India and Africa, and you just have to do one contract. Well, there it is. I mean, just the progression of not just wrestling, just the way entertainment is consumed. And I think it's a win for Netflix, win for WWE, and win for the wrestling fan. Because I think you're going to get the network all under one. You're going to get obviously all the premium live events. It's going to morph into, if you want to watch the WWE, you're going to Netflix. And I think it's a smart move. And I think you got to look down the road at all other wrestling promotions, obviously. AEW's my home promotion. So where does all this head? It's going to be very interesting to see how things develop. But hats off to the vision, if you will, of the WWE and Netflix to have this come together, because obviously Netflix folks know their numbers like, you know, their own numbers, so they know what's going to work, and they, you know, I think they tipped their toe in the water with the comedy special. But to go live 52 weeks a year, professional wrestling can be a turnkey product where all they have to do is accept the stream, and the wrestling promotion does all the rest. It really, really is a good deal for everyone involved.
I wonder about the term of the deal. I think we were all sort of blown away a handful of years ago when WWE announced they were going to get $1 billion from Fox. People lost their mind about $200 million a year for SmackDown. Well, how's $500 million a year sound just 5 years later? Huge feather in the cap for Mr. Nick Khan. You know, let's remind everybody that dude came over in 2020. So you're talking about in less than 4 years, he's the most powerful person in all of wrestling. Totally changed the game, created more revenue than everybody else. It's unbelievable. But when I saw that number, I thought to myself, is there a downside to this? And I started to look, and I saw that the term is what I wanted to talk about. So I do want you to talk about $500 million, because what an incredible amount of money that is. It breaks down to, it's over $3 million an hour to create that content. And as Eric Bischoff has explained before, the cost of an additional hour from, say, 1 hour to 2 or 2 hours to 3 is nominal. It's that first number that's so crazy. So I'm saying all that to say, no matter what they spend, hour 2 and 3 are probably straight cash, homie, right in the pocketbook. But it's a 5-year deal. It's been reported that it's a 10-year deal, but I guess Netflix has the opportunity to get out after 5 years, which I can't imagine they would want to. We don't know how this is going to play out, but this feels like it makes a lot of sense for Netflix in particular. But what got me was they could extend this an additional 10 years. So after 5 years, Jeff, as I understand it, they can decide, do we want to keep this deal and see it through for the full 10-year term? And at the end of that second 5-year stint, so we're 10 years in now, they can say, yeah, let's just do it again for another 10 years. And if the money is the same, what looks like a home run right now, will that be not all that much cash relatively? Will it be considered a good deal in the long term for Netflix? Because just 5 years ago, 200 sounded crazy. And now here's 500. But what will we think about that in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What say you?
I'm not buying that the money stays the same after 10. I don't think it's going to stay the same after 5. I just don't. I think they're going to come back to the drawing board 3 years into this. You know, oh man, Connie, where do we kind of even start on all of this? Because you just said it, 3 million an hour. So Raw's 9 million, production. I mean, all the bells and whistles.
Raw's roughly 10 million a week now.
Okay. And so you throw in every kind of production bell and whistle that you could come up with. You have multiple influencers, pop stars. You have we'll call it the core weekly talent, all that kind of stuff. It is amazing the amount of money, even if it is all completely global, which I think they'll head there. India is still a big paycheck, Middle East a big paycheck. You know, there's other big paychecks, but they're going to get there. But still, 10 million every Monday. But you have to look at Netflix, and I'm, again, folks a lot smarter than me, but you kind of look at a property, and this is where I look at the professional wrestling industry as a whole, is that it's not, well, in your terminology, sometimes getting its flowers, but you kind of look at the NFL, and outside of 26 quarterbacks, and I'm going to cut that in half, maybe 10 quarterbacks and maybe a couple of skill players. The NBA they're hurting like crazy in ratings, but maybe 5 marquee talent. I'm going to go, okay, 10. They got the legends that do the panel host. Anyway, what I'm saying is WWE has what a marketing machine professional wrestling is when you take talent that has all their own social media accounts and they're their own built-in promoters, and that's where the value just continues to raise. Is that when Succession, you don't see who's the big heel on there, the main heel. I love him. He's playing the character. Who's the dad? What's his name? Real name on Succession?
Logan.
No, yeah, but what's his real name?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, he doesn't in his off time, or he goes and does another show. So he's not going to be out actively promoting Succession. And, I don't think football players or basketball players are out there doing that. Wrestling it's just that unique hybrid form of entertainment that is a lot of self-promoters under one roof. And so that 10 million, I think it's, they're overpaying. No, they're not. I don't believe so. And I just think the wrestling business, it'll contract. It always does, but in the long run, like the stock market, it just getting more and more valuable and bigger and newer highs. So, Dane County, when you just put it in those terms, 10 million every Monday.
It's crazy.
Wow.
You got to wonder, what's going to change, if anything. I mean, I've even heard a lot of people speculating, hey, what will they do during commercial breaks? And it's like, hey, have you ever been to a Monday Night Raw? They keep wrestling. Maybe they don't do as many high spots, but hey, maybe you're looking to hit some high spots and looking for some new changes. Well, cheers to the new year from our friends at Manscaped, because your resolutions shouldn't be the only things that are well kept. 2024 is the time for new heights, new opportunities, and a new look for your Times Square balls. Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Whether you're looking to maintain or trim or go for that clean shaven look, this trimmer has you covered. Trusted by over 10 million men worldwide, now is your time to get a grip on your grooming with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use the code MYWORLD for 20% off plus free shipping. Happy New Year, or Happy New Balls. Introducing the MVP of 2024, Manscaped's 5th generation lawnmower. It's not just a trimmer, it's your grooming sidekick. It's equipped with 2 skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. It's like having a personal stylist at your fingertips, or, well, wherever you need it. And did we mention it's waterproof? Because a trim in the shower is the only way to start the day. And for my men who want the full grooming experience, look no further than Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0. In this grooming kit, you'll get the trusted lawnmower, Manscaped's ear and nose hair trimmer, and essential aftercare products with the Crop Soother Ball Aftershave Lotion and Crop Preserver Anti-Chafing Ball Deodorant. It's deodorant for your balls. Bet you didn't think you needed that. And as a gesture for the new year, they even throw in 2 free gifts, the Boxers 2.0 and the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag, because they know good and well you're still rocking boxers from high school. Let's face it, Manscaped is making it easy, because these resolutions might come and grow, but a well-groomed you here to stay, all thanks to Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping. Just use our code MYWORLD at manscaped.com, because nothing says Happy New Year like a deal that leaves your balls and your budget feeling refreshed. Embrace a new you, and definitely embrace a new trimmer, courtesy of Manscaped. So yeah, I love hearing your take that you don't think they'll actually keep the same money. That would not surprise me. It feels like Nick Khan, who I think his first title with the company was Chief Revenue Officer. Of course, we know now he's helping run the whole shooting match. But my man has figured out how to bring in revenue, and it feels like he's discovered the key to that, the shortcut to that financial success and pumping that stock price up, is work licensing deals and work sponsorship deals. You take a look at the amount of sponsorship revenue that they're bringing in now versus pre-Nick Khan, it's unbelievable, especially from a pay-per-view and premium line of live event and just sort of in-program marketing. I want to be clear, those are dollars that goes directly to WWE. You know, if they're buying a commercial on a channel, that's one thing, but if it's inside the programming, like you would see, you know, at a pay-per-view, that's all just straight profit for WWE. Not only that, but as we know, he's worked the deal out with Fanatics, and so they're handling all of the WWE's merch. For years and years, they had a whole department. He just made a deal for that. He made a similar deal for Peacock because 10 years ago this month, WWE launched their own network. And or maybe that was 11 years at this month. Whatever. The point is,
yep,
the network has been sunset effectively here in the United States. But now this Netflix deal feels like it's going to sunset the entire network globally. And if you recall, Jeff, the scuttlebutt was George and Michelle, Barrios and Wilson, they were the leadership group in WWE. And I guess they opposed Vince's vision for throw everything on the network, including the pay-per-views, very specifically including WrestleMania, because there was discussion, hey, maybe the pay-per-views like Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania, they won't be on the network. You'll still have to buy those as a traditional pay-per-view. And then I read other discussions. Well, maybe they'll all be on the network except not WrestleMania. Or maybe we'll include just WrestleMania the first year. Whatever the decision, it was clear that they all stayed except for George and Michelle. The pay-per-views were on the network. George and Michelle were out. Here comes Nick Khan, and Nick cuts a different deal, sort of moving away from Peacock or from the network, and we're going to instead just get a guaranteed amount of money from Peacock. And if you're trying to be in the stock game, Jeff, that makes a lot of sense because now you can guarantee your income. You're not hoping we can perform and hoping we can sell pay-per-views and hoping we can, you know, get subscriptions up on our own and sort of charting our own course. Now, whether interest is up, interest is down, subscriptions are up, subscriptions are down, revenue's the same. That's what Wall Street wants to see. Would you agree with that?
Comfort.
Yes.
But
mitigated risk.
Mitigated risk. That's the fancy term, but the comfort zone. But what, you know, you're a Succession fan. I was a Succession fan, but any streaming show that comes out now, they hope it's a hit. And if it's a hit, it's going to have a shelf life. You know, if it's a Sopranos, it's a 20-year shelf life. But for the shows that are coming out now, you hope it's a hit, and you can kind of look on a graph that, okay, this is the number, and if it gets hot, it's going to go here. But there's so many shows that just die. I mean, complete out. When you look at WWE, I'm going back to the sponsorship. That's another thing that Netflix looks at and says, oh, you're going to bring these sponsors. Now, how's that deal cut, Conrad? I don't want to keep pinging it back for you, but with you know, the sponsorship, and it's all heading toward that, is that still going to be, what's the split there? I don't know, but
you put that on SmackDown, Daddy.
Say that again now.
I mean, you know, SmackDown's going to USA.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you just load up all your sponsorship stuff with, I thought what you were saying is, does that affect the Netflix deal?
I don't know. That what I'm saying is that we'll call it 10 million every Monday they get to go pull that cash register. It is amazing. But so you just made kind of the comment, Fanatics broker that out. They're broken out, you know, here's sponsorship. Well, the word pay-per-view was, man, it was without question what WWE or WWF, WWE, WCW, it's what the world, you know, when Eric went from 4 to 12, it was, let's go get more pay-per-view money. Let's go get pay-per-view money. That world changed in the WWE vernacular to premium live event. That's exactly how there is no more pay-per-view. And yeah, I'm sure they have some in spots around the world, and They're not, but for the most
But this
part,
will change that, Jeff.
Huh?
I think this changes that, because my understanding is their pay-per-views internationally will be on Netflix.
that's what I'm saying is pay-per-views gone.
Officially, there's no more pay-per-view in WWE.
That's what I'm saying. You're cleaning my mess of words up. That's kind of what I'm saying is the word pay-per-view really is scratch from the WWE ledger.
Yeah.
Completely, which is, man, that is a game changer. On the flip side, does Netflix have another do they have another product that oh my gosh, first week of April we're going to get however many people watching our streaming network at the same time live? I don't know. When is the first premium live event on Netflix?
Well, you got to think it's going to be January of 2025. So I assume the Royal Rumble will be the first international. And I don't know how that really affects the Peacock deal. Are we still going to domestically here? Will we still watch those on Peacock? At least for a bit.
Yeah. Do you know, has that been clarified?
I don't know that it has, but what has been discussed is that there's this hangover period, October to January, where Raw will stop airing on USA in October. And we know it will start on Netflix in January. Where does it go in the meantime? That's what you think?
The world's largest network and sell sponsorships for 90 days. I mean, I don't know. Did you and Eric talk about that? Because to me, I immediately thought, wow, what an opportunity. I mean,
I think somebody is definitely going to make it an opportunity. I don't know exactly what it is, but there is a lot of money to be made there in those 3 or 4 months for a handful of people, for sure.
That to me would be your YouTube play.
Let's real quick, off the top of our head, we know for sure the Netflix deal is $500 million, right?
Yep.
And we know what the value of the new Raw to USA. I mean, you saw not Raw, but SmackDown to USA. So you got those guarantees, plus you got the CW for NXT, plus you've still got a little bit of time left on the Peacock deal. That's not counting what's in Fanatics. We're talking well over $1 billion guaranteed revenue. WWE's business has never been stronger than it is right freaking now.
And I think you're forgetting the over 100 million on 2 shows in Saudi.
There you go. I mean, when you really add it up, you're talking well over $1 billion that they've got guaranteed before they load one truck. I mean, sell one ticket.
So in your Google machine that you're so fast with, what is UFC's guaranteed television rights deal?
I don't know the answer to that. That's a great question, though. Meanwhile, UFC is eyeing a new broadcast rights deal in 2024, with the current ESPN deal expiring in 2025. So yeah, it looks like there's going to be another opportunity there.
I'd say Ari's shaking and moving as we speak.
There is no doubt that, man, you want to talk about just the effects of this last week on TKO and Ari. We got to talk about all that. One of the things that they did besides, I did want to ask you about this. It felt like the network thing. This feels like we're throwing in the flag there. And for a long time, I think, well, let's just give a full peek behind the curtain. The entire time, Vince McMahon, who most people consider to be one of the true pioneers of pay-per-view. Would you agree with that?
No question. I truly don't even think there's a distant second.
Yes, he's number one by far. So when he did an about face with the WWE network and said, we're done with that, now we're doing this, a lot of people, like Dave Meltzer, said it's too early. The world's not ready for this. It's too early. And we saw that other wrestling companies like Impact and certainly AEW now, they're still doing the pay-per-view model, but he elected to do it this way. And a lot of people felt like he was doing something that the UFC had done, where the UFC was doing their own app, and you sign up for this subscription service. And of course, they had done it eventually a deal with ESPN, and now it's on ESPN Plus. But people felt like at the time this was real innovation and a departure. And I just want to explain the business side of that. And I know you weren't privy to all the pay-per-view deals that Vince cut over the years, but just the quick and dirty math. If he had a $40 pay-per-view, it was $39.95. We'll round up the nickel, call it $40. How much would WWE receive if they sold a viewer on spending $40 to watch their pay-per-view?
The simplistic term, if it's a cable buy,
yeah,
$20, you live in Huntsville, a $40 buy, $20 stays right there in Huntsville at the local cable company. $10 goes to In Demand, the clearinghouse, if you will, the point person that is owned by multiple cable companies, and they're kind of the back end administrator, marketer, blah, 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 blah. And then you get the remaining 40%. So whatever, $18, whatever it is, you get 40. It's a 50, 10, 40 split. Direct and dish can be a little bit different, but it's roughly 60-40. Sometimes they're going to kind of throw in there 65-35 for an upstart. And that's the thing. WWE outgrew the pay-per-view business.
They did.
It's not that they said, no more, because look, AEW is living, breathing proof that the pay-per-view model is very lucrative. And it is, to me, the growth, the stage of growth that any company is in. It's to me, it's just that simple. The stage of growth. WWE got to a point where they outgrew it. In a sense, how can we maximize the revenue? And also what you just said, when you're publicly traded, folks that are going to invest in your company on stocks, they won't guaranteed deal. So,
yeah, nobody wants to lose money. Nobody buys a stock hoping it goes down. You know,
no. Volatility.
Yeah, because short sellers, yes.
Yes.
The reason I was bringing up the network again, though, is this feels like a bit of a paradigm shift, because they were moving away from the pay-per-view model with the idea being we wouldn't have to share any of that revenue, guys.
Yep.
So no longer, I know you said 40%. Let's make it easy for our math and call it 50%, $20. If we make a sale for $40, we should get the $40.
And your business can be cut in half. You make the same revenue.
That's it. But if we stay at the same level, we'll make twice the money. Now, of course, we know we're going to have some overhead. So they started to add some staff, and they also thought, hey, we'll lower the price. So instead of it being what you would pay a month for a pay-per-view, we'll make it more affordable. So fans everywhere will be able to participate and see all of the shows. I think George and Michelle felt like, yeah, but we still need to hold back perhaps Royal Rumble, perhaps SummerSlam, but certainly WrestleMania. We know that didn't happen. So as a result, the subscriber base never really reached where they wanted. I think there was lots of whispers and rumor and innuendo about, hey, they need 2 million here, or they hope for this many million there. And they never quite hit those numbers. So this feels like the network is done. And what I find so fascinating about this, Jeff, is like, think back a few years ago when people were talking about bullshit NFTs and all that sort of stuff, the digital age that we're in and the blockchain and blah, blah, blah. People were convinced. I was talking to people who were convinced that the people who are going to make the most money during this are not necessarily those who are buying and trading NFTs. But if you have the delivery system, the platform, we'll call it the eBay, we'll call it the PayPal. If you could be the middleman on all of those transactions, said differently, Vince wanted to cut out the middleman. He wanted to go straight to the consumer. And now it feels like WWE is no longer interested in not only owning the content and the delivery system. They'd rather own the content and just license everything out and get guarantees and leave that to someone else. That is a real paradigm shift within WWE. And it makes me wonder, because for whatever reason, WWE's been the leader. I shouldn't say for whatever reason. Proven success has made them the leader. So New Japan has a streaming app. Impact has a streaming app. There's lots of other wrestling streaming apps out there. And there's been discussion over the years we've read, hey, will AEW do one? Because people were saying WWE was. Now it feels like, boy, that was a total about face there. Do you think that changes the way people perceive wrestling and owning the delivery mechanism?
Boy, as you would say, there is an awful lot to unpack here.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is that in 2024, the landscape of all of entertainment, I mean, we're talking big blockbuster movie, just the movie theater's different. The television shows, you know, our boy Paul Walterhausen. No, Paul, you know, Paul Walterhauser, you know, that show, I know it's a little late, but he won his award, and hats off to him. Just, I'll call it mainstream entertainment is consumed by, I mean, you think about ABC, CBS, and NBC. Oh, then Fox came along. And then the basic cable came along, and then there's 300 or 400 channels that come along. Now there's Apple, Amazon Prime. I mean, just there's so many more points of distribution, and I'm not even throwing in there YouTube. And they're, you know, I mean, it's just it's amazing where they're headed, and NFL, how they distribute all that. Man, I'm jumbling everything. But Conrad, give me your specific question, because there's so many things that go through my mind that at the end of the day, it's not just the WWE. It is, they are experts in creating professional wrestling content.
Yes.
And that niche bubble is the business they're in, and they just print money off of that. They're no longer in the t-shirt making business. They're no longer in, you know, go down the entire list of, I mean, you know, just everything. They produce professional wrestling content at its core. And they, if there's one thing Nick Khan has done, I would say, Conrad, and maybe this is a point of discussion, I mean, you can chat back and forth. He has laser focused just that. We produce wrestling content, and that's how we're going to make our money, and throw everything out I mean, move everything out of house.
They became specialists instead of them being, you know, the practitioner at your local doc in a box, as we like to call it, a walk-in clinic. Now they're a brain surgeon. You know, they've gotten very specific with their wrestling content, and I think that's the reason they're more profitable. They're trying less stuff, right?
When you look at Fanatics, just that example, and, you know, on LinkedIn, you see different guys, you know, moving jobs and congrats and this and that. It's amazing how there's several folks that were executives and mid-management at WWE in merchandising, and now they're same job description. They're just at Fanatics. And man, to me, again, I'm going to go back. I'm a wrestling guy, obviously, but all forms of entertainment, the laser focus that they've put on, there's a lot to learn from that, to me, a whole lot to learn from that, in that as a third generation promoter, really just laser focus on creating that content. That's the way to go across the board.
Well, the way to go right now is with our friends at Factor, especially if you're trying to stick to some of those New Year's resolutions. Man, they make it easy with Factor's delicious, ready to eat meals that are making every day easier and better. Seriously, you can be prepared for tomorrow with chef prepared, chef crafted, dietitian approved meals delivered right to your door. They've got dozens of different options, something for everybody. Maybe you're on a keto diet, check. Maybe you're looking for low calorie, check. Maybe you're looking for vegan and veggie, check. Maybe you're like Jeff and you're looking for protein plus, check. And they've got all the other stuff you need too. Over 55 different add-ons Maybe you're looking for breakfast or juices or snacks. Factor can hook you up. But what you're going to love about Factor is the 2-minute meals. That's right. It's restaurant quality food. It's ready to heat and enjoy. That's it. If you're watching with us over on YouTube, or just go see for yourself, factormeals.com/myworld50. It tells you exactly what it is on the outside of this carton. You slide that carton off, pop a couple holes in the plastic over the top, slide it in the microwave, and in 2 minutes, you're not going to believe the flavor. Seriously, not just your meals, as I said, snacks, smoothies, and more, but they've also done the math. Factor is less expensive than takeout, and every meal is dietitian approved, and it's also nutritious and delicious. So if you're looking for a way to drop some lbs, save some cash, or just eliminate the hassle, Factor is for you. It's flexible for your schedule. You can choose 6 meals a week or 18 meals a week. You can pause or reschedule. They make it easy, and there's no prep. There's no mess. Factor meals are 100% ready to eat. There's no prepping. There's no cooking. There's no cleanup. Head right now to factormeals.com/myworld50 and use the code myworld50 to get 50% off your first box and 2 free wellness shots per box while the subscription is active. That's code myworld50 at factormeals.com/myworld50. You get 50% off your first box and 2 free wellness shots per box while the subscription is still active. So Jeff, let's get back to it here, man. There's so much to talk about. You know, we're talking about the big Netflix deal. We got to at least talk about The Rock. The Rock is back, and in a big way, he's on the board. And I said to myself, how weird is it that Vince McMahon, not on the board, Paul Levesque, not on the board, but The Rock is. Part of the terms of that agreement, as I understand, is he gets, at the time, what was valued at roughly $30 million worth of stock. That's probably 15-20% higher now. And he got the rights to his name back. As I understand it, for years and years, if he was billed as The Rock in a movie build, WWE, or maybe specifically Vince McMahon, got a producer credit, and he had to pay tribute, as they used to say in the mafia, according to The Sopranos. We know now The Rock is here to stay, not just on camera, whatever that may wind up being, but he's got a job on the board. And considering his relationship with Endeavor and Nick Khan, and the fact that he is the biggest movie star in the world, and Netflix happens to be in that business, well, it sure does make a whole lot of sense. What say you?
Conrad, you're so much better at this than and I don't know, because I have been I'll say this. Since that came out last week, I've had multiple buddies text me, "Hey man, help me out here. What exactly does that mean that Dwayne Johnson is sitting on the board?" Because we could talk about this the whole pod, because this is fascinating to me in a very first time I met Rock, his dad called him Dewey. So he was 14 years old. But the board, help me out, Conrad, because it is because you explain it better, but he's not an employee. It's how many's on that board? 8 to 10, but they're independent. I call them businessmen. Wouldn't that be a safer way to say it? Just yes. What it represents is much, to me, when you really inside baseball and pull the layers back and pull the layers back and pull the layers back, he's on the board that owns, it's Endeavor. It's it's TKO's board. It's very impressive. You want to help me out there, Connie? Just kind of
buddy, it is such a wild thing. I mean, I'm going to run through the board members of TKO.
Good. Good.
Carrie Wheeler. She was she's the director of TKO Group Holdings. So she's on the board here. She served as CEO and board member on Open Door since December 2022. So she's on the board. Nancy Tellem, also on the board. This is back in September of 2023 when this was formalized. She's been the executive chairperson and chief media officer of what used to be known as Interlude US. She's previously worked for Xbox too. Sonia Medina, she was the president and CEO of Reach Resilience. She was appointed to the board in September of 2023. Hope you're noticing the trend here. Carrie, Nancy, Sonia. Jonathan Kraft, he too is on the board since September. He's the president of Kraft Group LLC since July of 1995. Steve Koonin, he's the CEO of the Atlanta Hawks since 2014. He's also on the board of TKO. Nick Khan, we all know very well. Brad Keywell, he's on the board. He's the founder of Uptake Technologies, which is an artificial intelligence software company. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down there. Egon Durbin, he's the co-executive officer of Silver Lake, which is a tech investment firm. He's been on the board as well since September of 2023.
Take note.
Peter C.B. Bino, I screwed that name up. He has been a senior advisor and equity partner at DLA Piper LLP, which is a global law firm. Board member since September of last year. We know Ari Emanuel. He's the big boss. He's the chief executive officer. And he's got a lot of ties here. A little company called Endeavor. He's been the director of Endeavor since June of 2009. And he served as the CEO since 2017. And Endeavor is worth a Google if you're not familiar with stuff. And then, of course, there's Mark Shapiro. He's the president and chief operating officer. He's also been with Endeavor. He's coming over from Endeavor. So you got a lot of people who are in that business. And now, seemingly out of nowhere, here's Dwayne Johnson.
So
it's a crazy group, is it not?
Well, I'm glad you went through them one by one, because the board of directors, look, everybody, it's simple. Hey, I'm going to invest in Exxon or Mobil or Walmart or Apple, but you invest in TKO, like any board of directors, it's a group of businessmen and women who guide the ship, that their single job is to make sure if you invest in their company, you get your money back and a return. And when you put Dwayne, when you put little Dewey alongside all that, coming from $7 in his pocket to a wrestling star, to a movie star, to a businessman with Under Armour and tequila and football league and everything that goes with it, but he's sitting on that board. Hats off to him. It is amazing. What a payday. We'll get to his IP in just a second, because there was something about that just kind of surprised me. But Conrad, to me, when I know Ari's super powerful and Shapiro, but we talk about in our business, hey, this guy's on top and that guy's on top. And we're supposed to be talking about Lawler today, because he would have been on top for a lot of years. To me, Dwayne, I own The Rock now, Johnson is on top of the industry. They're going to look to him on that board for wrestling expertise. Not business expertise, but when you really drill it down, they're sitting around the table on having to making decisions. Ari is brilliant in talent. There's no doubt about it. Nick Khan, deal maker, brilliant in talent. He was a uber mega talent agent for years and his success. But when you get right down to the professional wrestling component of it, and there's, as Dutch would say, wrestling logic, Connie, me and you, and he's like, only in this business, Jeff, all those kind of things. But when you drill it right down, The Rock is the most powerful man in wrestling today.
It's crazy to think about, but it's hard to argue, because he's got so much influence in so many other areas. And I think the natural question is, Hey, does Rock have anything else that TKO might be interested in? You know, he's got that little football league. And they just did a bit of a merger themselves. I mean, that feels like that's the next step. And it does feel like, you know, he's with the right group of animals to go help make those deals happen. When I say animals, I'm just so impressed by what Nick Khan has been able to do to grow this company in such a short period of time. You know, I know that he's sort of behind the scenes, but goodness gracious, it feels like he's been pulling all kinds of strings. And I'm excited to see what's next for WWE. Unfortunately, just because Vince McMahon has resigned, and I guess that document has been filed since we've been recording this morning, Jeff. It is official. It is documented now that he has resigned his position as a board member.
Can we, before we go into that, can we talk about the IP of The Rock?
Yeah.
So, and you know these years much better than I do, but he went away and came back and did we'll kind of call it the trilogy with Cena, right?
Okay.
What years were those? I just help me out here, but because it's
we'll call it 2011, 2012.
Okay. Why didn't he say, yeah, I'll come do those three, but I want my name back? Why didn't he use that card then?
Well, I mean, why didn't
it's hypothetical? I mean, you know, like I thought he owned it already.
No, I knew he was still paying a fee, but I kind of think there were some hurt feelings once upon a time because they let his contract expire and they acted like it just slipped through. So this was a long time ago, but years ago, this is back when JR, I think, was still running talent relations. They just let the deal lapse. I think they were paying him, but he wasn't doing anything. And his contract wasn't renewed. And I guess he was in his feelings about it. And there were some hurt feelings for a while. And then they patched it together. But I feel like Vince McMahon, boy, I don't know the man well enough to say this, but reading what we read recently, it feels like he likes the idea of quote unquote owning people. Like, why would you not let The Undertaker, a guy who did it all for you too? Undertaker can't make appearances as Undertaker. He's got to call himself Mark Calloway. So if he'll do that to somebody who was with him for day one for 30 something years, why would we think he wouldn't do that for The Rock?
But my point being, and I'm going to just say this.
You felt like The Rock had the leverage to ask for it then?
In 2011, I still think he was, if not the biggest, right up there, top 5 most powerful man in Hollywood. He didn't need the WWE without question. He could have gone on. Anyway, it's just a hypothetical. So when I heard that news, I'm like, wait, he didn't already play that card way back when? I just thought that. But him getting that, what I'm curious now, this is just a sidebar, Connie, and I don't know if you've discussed this on any other podcast, but now that Dwayne owns The Rock, and probably there's some associated marks with that. Brother Dawkins may be able to help us out. But I say that to say it's going to be curious to see what $7 and whatever his team, how are they going to monetize The Rock differently? That they thought to themselves, a deal come across the table. No, I don't do that. There's a lot of red tape and the pie may be cut too thin and this is going to go there and this is going to go there. We'll pass. I'm just curious to see. He got it back, and I know it's very personal because his dad's Rocky and everything, the emotional, and I think he said that in one of his interviews last week. But now that he has it, how's he going to monetize it? Because I definitely think he's got a plan for it. And yes, it is a personal family name, if you will, but I just see him monetizing it in a way that is not on everyone's bingo card right now. That's all I'll say.
On a ballot?
Bingo card.
I'm asking on a ballot. Do you think we'll see it on a ballot?
No.
You don't think The Rock ever runs for anything?
No.
For obvious reasons?
I don't know if they're obvious or not, but I just...
What do you mean you don't know if they're obvious or not? Look what's happened in the last week or so. There's skeletons in closets. I'm not making any comparison, but I'm saying, goodness gracious, if you've been on top of the world as a public person for 30 freaking years, somebody somewhere is upset, right?
Yeah, but I don't think that's the reason. I think Rock is an entertainer, and there's 50-ish% Republicans and 50% Democrats. Why piss either side off?
Well, it just feels like to me it's not worth the hassle. I think we're saying the same thing. Like I'm just saying it becomes a mudslinging competition when you jump in there.
Oh,
and so
boy, does it.
Now it becomes, man, let's just look for absolutely anything. Is there a bad tweet from 12 years ago we can find or whatever?
It's a whole nother level now on that.
Yes,
People fabricate stuff. Look, the AI stuff that they put out on Taylor.
Yeah.
But here's a light bulb. Okay, Taylor's a grown woman and she's in the public eye, and arguably, yeah, she is the hottest musical act that's come along. She's breaking Garth Brooks records and others, all that kind of stuff. She's in the public eye. You know what? It ain't the worst thing that's ever happened to her or whatever. But I didn't realize, and this is what I saw on different news blips, this technology, kids can use it in high school and do it. It's a form of bullying, if you will. Man, the youth and the kids of today, and they're resilient, and it's sign of the ages. But my gosh, Connie, they
got it rough, Bubba.
It's just different, man. It is, yeah. I mean, it's and maybe our parents said that about us. Oh, it's a different world. Them going to school these days, it's different. I know in every generations, but my gosh, using that kind of AI technology to bully others. Conrad, so many rabbit holes we could go in today. Keep it rolling.
Well, I do want to talk about the big news of Vince McMahon. I feel like we have to, but before we do, I do want to just talk about some other positive stuff. I know the ratings didn't necessarily reflect it, but I heard Collision was fantastic. I haven't seen it yet. I've got it DVR'd, but I got multiple texts about some really great stuff on that show. I can't wait to check out. I want to remind everybody that we are like a month and change away from Sting's last match.
Wow.
And tickets are on sale. His last television appearance, Jeff, I don't know that me and you've talked about this. It just clicked for me about a week ago, I guess. Sting finished up in TNA on a double taping in 2014. It was called Genesis. He finished TNA right here in Huntsville. So his last two matches, his last two television appearances for TNA were in Huntsville at the Von Braun Center against Magnus and EC3. And fans were chanting Undertaker. They wanted him to go to WWE. We know he did that. Didn't go exactly as planned. But now his last television appearance and maybe his last television match will be in Huntsville at yet again another double taping. Both Rampage and Collision will be taped on the go home episodes of Sting's last match right down the street from me at the Von Braun Civic Center. Tickets are on sale now, AEWTIX.com. I hope that you guys will make plans to join us here in Huntsville, and I would keep checking back. If you've checked and tickets look like they were sold out for Sting's last match, my understanding is production kills will continue to come, so you might not be out on the cold yet. But what a great amount of momentum you have for Sting's last match right now. In my opinion, it is the most talked about, most interesting thing happening on AEW programming outside of the last Outlaw, of course.
Conrad, it's okay. Obviously, Music City, my neighbor, is big time, top of the music business agent. Know multiple folks, and we've had backyard conversations, if you will. And I've just had these through the years, and I'm like, oh wow, that act they're touring. Oh, Jeff, do you know what they did just this weekend alone? And he'll share some numbers, and you just kind of go, wow. Just putting one tagline, Sting's last match. Hey, how about that, Connie? But no, and it basically went clean, and then the production, just how our business opens up. But it's sold out, and it's selling out, and it's every little seat that opens up goes pretty quick. I just think that in and of itself, and my history with Sting, and we go back so many years, but I guess like Punk this past weekend, 10 years, that he left and came back. And now here's Sting, 10 years, right? 2014,
Yep.
2020. So 10 years, his last TV. It's just funny how life turns out that way. But with all the world going on, and I do want to come back to Collision, just again, our business, there's nothing like it, man. I'd sound like such a damn broken record on that, but I'm really happy for Steve Borden. The career that he's had, it is amazing. And you just kind of think about the journey and how it's ending in Greensboro. And the best thing is, did you see Cal Ripken Jr. when he retired, when he finally, I cried watching it. Just Sting is the kind of guy that if there's anybody that deserves, if you will, I always hate to use that line, to go out,
big send off, yeah,
go out on his terms. It just doesn't happen. It just there's so many folks with retirements and this and that. But Sting getting to go out on his terms in Greensboro, the little footnote, because TNA, he wrestled in TNA. A lot of people, it's hard for them to wrap their head around how long, he was with us, early days, but he was with us full time for many years. Just what a legacy he leaves on perseverance, persistence, character, integrity, doing the right thing, staying true to himself. And look, he had his ups and downs, personally and professional, but he always, on screen and off, Steve always stayed true to Steve. And so I just couldn't be happier for the guy that he's getting to go out in this kind of manner. And he is definitely getting his flowers.
AEWTIX.com, or of course, you can still watch Revolution from AEW on pay-per-view.
So, all platforms.
Let's mention that there's a lot of things that are changing over on the WWE side of things. Normally, we have a pretty clear picture of what WrestleMania is going to look like. Maybe it's not as clear as the picture we know for the Super Bowl, because now we know Taylor Swift is bringing her Kansas City Chiefs to Las Vegas to take on the 49ers. And we're excited to announce that new affiliate partnership with Fanatics. It's not just WWE hooking up. It's your favorite podcast here, My World. And now we've got the world's largest collection of officially licensed fan gear that you can rock to support your lowly Titans or your awful Predators, or, any of those winning championship teams like the Alabama Crimson Tide. Available now at shopsportsmerch.com. It's a great way to support your favorite podcast with Jeff and I. And of course, you can also support your favorite players and teams, all using that special URL, shopsportsmerch.com. Or if you're watching along with us over on YouTube, just hit that QR code that's up on the screen now, and you can go straight there. Or of course, you can check out the description below for the actual link. We'll also have it up on all of our socials. But this is your chance to hook up jerseys, caps, shirts, jackets, hoodies, all of this and so much more at shopsportsmerch.com. So Jeff, I do want to talk about what's going on in WWE land. We know now Bayley has won the women's Royal Rumble. We also saw in that Royal Rumble some new folks we hadn't seen on the main roster. Tiffany Stratton, I was excited to see her get an opportunity amongst others. Maybe most interesting, Mrs. Grace, the TNA World Women's Champion, showing up in the Rumble. That felt old school. I really liked it. And I'm glad to see that Bayley punched her ticket. I kind of thought it was going to be Liv Morgan. I'm glad it's Bayley. It feels like she's sort of the last of the quote unquote 4 horsewomen to get this opportunity. And I don't know, it's so crowded at the top. I don't know that she'll have the opportunity to close the night on night 1 like we've seen happen with some other ladies. I know last year Charlotte and Rhea absolutely tore it up, but it wound up being the Usos and Sammy and KO to close. What do you expect for Bayley? Is it going to be Bayley versus Rhea at WrestleMania?
You know, it's got to be, right? I mean, with almost called her by her real name, Charlotte, with Charlotte's injury situation, and she's the best, Charlotte, the best of the best of the best, and so it would be interesting to see with her still in where all of that would have gone. But Bayley, she was champion in 2018 or 19. And so, look, Saturday night, I had one screen on Collision while it was on. And so that was when the Women's Royal Rumble was on, and then one screen on the Rumble. And my man Cody, and boy, Conrad, I know you've watched some wrestling shows with Cody, and the questions can go down a rabbit hole about anything at any time. I mean, in any era, it can jump back 10 years. You never know. But try watching 2 wrestling shows with him. It was a lot of fun. But as I sat there and watched the TNA champ step in and just how that story evolved, and Jade's how
about Jade making her debut? That's awesome.
And Naya and just all that, it occurred to me, and then obviously we'll get into the men's here in a second, but when I looked at it, and there wasn't the, oh my gosh, and I'm just pulling a name out of that, no bushwhacker, there were no surprise legends or vets current. And I thought, okay, the TNA women's champ, I thought, got a heck of a reaction. Why not use multiple promotions around the world to not just have one, but instead of using old vets from talent from yesteryear, start plugging in with, it gives because the wrestling world on the one hand is enormous, on the other hand it is a tight-knit community, and people are aware of promotions all over the world. So start plugging in talent from multiple promotions. I guess you could say use the forbidden door across the board on both the men's and women's, if you're not going to use that, because I thought there were lulls in both of them, because it's just hard. Look,
I didn't enjoy the Rumble. I thought the Rumble, I'm glad who won, but I didn't think these were the 2 most entertaining Rumbles.
Conrad, I can tell you from experience, when you format those things, and just like any wrestling card, you have main event, you have semi-main event, you have special attractions, you have guys that we'll call them underneath, and you have opening match. You kind of have those tiers. When you're laying out a 30 man or woman Rumble, when you have the ability to say, hey, I'm going to let Road Dogg pop out just because he's my butt, or I'm going to let, I don't know, Bubba Dudley, or I'm going to have, whatever star from this era, it is such a, hey, I didn't expect I was going to get to see this person. I mean, the Truth high spot was a big high spot because it's
huge.
I just think the simple deal is, oh, we weren't supposed to see that, but we got to see it. Those type of deals. When you get to a point in a Rumble and you have 30 entrances, by about 6 or 7 entrants of a middle card or below, it's the energy is let out of the room. And I think you could witness that. I'm not pointing fingers, but I am saying the entertainment value was much less, I believe, this year than in, I don't remember a less energetic one, if that will. Like you, I like the winners in both.
I don't know if I mean, do you think they try to do the damage control story and it's Bayley versus Io Sky, or would you go with Bayley Ripley?
Well, Mania is about the granddaddy of them all. Mm-hmm. It's the biggest show of the year. So if you don't give them, again, Connie, what I say about creative, it's subjective.
Oh,
so
sure.
There's not a absolute only way to do this. You also got to kind of figure out where they're going to go April, May, June, July. What are they building to? Where are they going in SummerSlam? Where are they going this next year? You know, where does Charlotte play into all of this? What is her timetable? That's another thing. If she's off the shelf for X amount of, okay, who do we really need to get up and running here? We can do this by giving them a stage, even beating them at Mania. We still give them that stage. There's so many factors that go into it that I think the fan, I don't call it the casual, but some folks don't even kind of connect the dots like, okay, they really need to do this for X, Y, and Z. That's going to happen. Something's going to happen in June. Something's going to happen in July. Something's going to happen in August. There's so many factors that go into it.
We should also mention that we've got, that big moment in the Rumble that I got a big pop for because we watched with all the top guys in Tampa.
I miss seeing all the top guys.
God, it was so fun to watch because Efren had a game that we played, and so everybody put their name, and he had the big tumbler, and you pulled it out, and if you won,
it's rigged. I saw the video. Guy won twice. I'm not buying it. It's rigged. It's scripted. I mean, Taylor Swift's Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl, and y'all had the same winner back to back in the top. Connie, I know you guys. That freaking Silva, he's the biggest shark. I guarantee you he got a payoff. Guarantee you. If he eats at Rosie's 6 days in a row, you can bet your sweet ass he's rigged the damn tumbler.
Here's what's interesting about that.
Okay.
He managed, I can't believe he did this, but he managed to win the first one with Bailey.
Who's he?
Dave McClay, top guy at freeshows.com. And he won. And he won $100, or you could pick your own number. So you pick what number you want for the men's Royal Rumble. And Efren had a plaque from last year's WrestleMania or Royal Rumble winners for both Cody and for Rhea, and a lifetime membership to the TNT Hall of Fame, and $1,000. And he asked me, what should he do? And I said, dude, go for it. It'll make it more fun. So I couldn't believe he did this, but he said, I'm going to use a lifeline and I'm going to call my wife and let her pick the number.
Gosh.
And so he called her on speaker and she said number 15. And Efren looked at me like, am I going to lose $1,000? Cause it's Efren's money. And I said, you're fine. Never in the history of ever has number 15 ever won the Royal Rumble. And someone fact checked it and said, hey, he's right. If he would have picked number 1, number 30, or number 27, because Dave asked me, what number should I pick? I said, I don't know, but I'd pick 130 or 27 off the top of my head. And so he says, I think I'm going to call my wife. And when he said 15, I belly laughed. Like, really? I'll be damned. It was Cody Rhodes.
That's great. What a story.
And he won. And not only that, Dave had some personal stuff going on in his life, and this was a fun distraction. He doesn't want me to say what it is.
Okay.
But the idea that he won, it was like, man, this is like a little movie here. I was so happy that he won. It was really fun.
We should have led with this story. I'm serious. When I saw it online, I got the biggest smile because folks don't realize what a community top guy is, and the camaraderie and the Zoom call we get to.
Let me set the stage for you.
Yeah, okay.
We got a big screen here. It's a conference room, like a banquet room at a hotel, a bunch of series of round tables. And we got a couple bartenders in the back. So drinks are flowing and we're watching the Royal Rumble, and we got Efren and Josh Odom's son spinning the little drum and pulling numbers during the countdown. It was so fun. I'm going to do that every chance I get. I'm going to have a Rumble party. It added so much more excitement to who was there that by the time it was over, I was like, hey, wait, there weren't technically any legends in that match. You know, normally we see a few people come back. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
One of the legends we didn't see, and now we know why, is Brock Lesnar. The rumor and innuendo is that they just basically slotted Braun Breaker into that spot. But the other rumor and innuendo was that Brock Lesnar was going to challenge Gunther at WrestleMania. Ooh. And that would have been a real dream match, Brock Lesnar and Gunther. I don't think it ever happens, not just at WrestleMania, but ever anywhere at this point. But were you surprised they debuted Braun Breaker in the Rumble, how they showcased him? And do you think he will actually wind up being perhaps Gunther's WrestleMania opponent?
you're hitting me with all kinds of information here. God, that's another man, Conrad. You're telling me a couple. Old Brian, I know him as Bronson. Knew him since the day he was born, or right there at it.
How proud are you of that? One of your friends' son in a featured spot in the Royal Rumble. Man, that's a cool deal.
When he was right out of high school and college, he was texting me about, hey, I mean, look, he's got two brothers. So this is Rick Steiner's kid. Those that don't know, it's his son. So there's 3 boys there. Scott has 2 boys. So there's 5 total boys. Out of the 5, Brian's the only one, to my knowledge, that really got bit by the bug. And man, he was bit by the bug early. So that's what's in our DNA at the end of the day. So for him to be bit by the bug and obviously really commit to this industry, and I mean, he loves it in NXT, grinding away, doing what he needs to do, getting better each day. Obviously we both know the folks down there that run it. You know, is it perfect? No, but it is. What an opportunity. And he's got the passion and drive that it takes. And so for him to work his way along and work his way along and work his way along. And again, the Grand Weaver above knows all, and his plan is perfect. But how in the world, we just talked about the top guy being scripted. I mean, how could you script that? His wife picks 15. Come on. Okay. On the flip side is a door was closed, it appears, with the Brock situation. But what a door that was open for Brian, and he came in and he seized it. And to me, it was just a matter of time. But the timing of all this, can you imagine old Bronson on the stage of WrestleMania with Gunther? And if Gunther's going to lose the title to somebody,
you're talking about making a guy. Braun is made right then.
I mean, at some point, Roman's got to lose. It's best for business, as they say, and Gunther's got to lose.
You make Braun.
I was going to say, what an upside to putting Braun over. I mean, what a tremendous upside.
And it frees up Gunther
to move on up. He will be WWE champion in 12 months, inside of 12 months.
Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of people are sort of scratching their heads and saying, okay, well, if that's what we're going to do, then what does that mean Seth is going to do? Because I think a lot of people, as soon as the news was revealed that CM Punk was coming to WWE, given the press conference and the way things happened with interviews with Nick Houseman on the Seth Rollins side, people just assumed, and then we saw Seth Rollins go apeshit in the ring. We just assumed that's the WrestleMania match. But there's rumor and innuendo that Punk may have actually gotten hurt in his first match back on TV. It was his first broadcast match in 10 years since he walked out on the WWE on that exact same day, the night after the Royal Rumble in 2014. And allegedly he's got a triceps injury. I don't know. But if that's still on, I would love to see Punk and Seth main event night 1. But if it's not on, what do we do? Because it does feel like they sort of teased Gunther and Seth. I don't know. Like it's weird to not have a clear WrestleMania picture, but I don't know that we necessarily do, because is Seth going to be hurt? Is Punk hurt? What's up with The Rock? Is The Rock going to do something or not? We know Brock Lesnar's out. It's a lot of moving parts right now in WWE. No.
So back to some sports analogies. When Harbaugh made the decision, dominoes started to fall in the coaching world. Is that fair enough to say, Conrad?
Yes.
When he just said he's going to Chargers, then this domino fell and that domino fell and that domino fell. I think that gentleman that sits on the board of directors, the newly appointed Dwayne Johnson, once that domino falls for WrestleMania, everything else will be filled in. I think until that domino falls, it's premature to even guess.
What's interesting to me as we're talking about The Rock is it's like, I don't know that we can make WrestleMania any bigger. Like WrestleMania is going to be sold out on its own. It's not a pay-per-view. I kind of assumed the way, like when Rock was on the set for College Game Day last year, when he was out there on the Deion Sanders train, when he was asked about this, facing Roman Reigns, he said he'd like to do something that's never been done before and take fans on a ride they've never seen before and do something that was, you know, the biggest in history, yada, yada, yada. And every year it does feel like WrestleMania is breaking another record. I don't think we have to worry about this year being any different. But next year being the first Netflix WrestleMania seemed to be obvious to me. Like, oh, that's what they'll do. I'm not so sure though. Like, given the recent news, do they think they need a shot in the arm, PR wise? Because I almost wonder, like, is The Rock in this spot to sort of act as WWE's Shaquille O'Neal to their Papa John's? Like, you had such a bad actor who went public with some bad behavior, and Papa John, when he was on tape saying things he definitely should not be saying. Well, how do we change the narrative and not get that on us at Papa John's, the pizza company, not the individual, not the guy, but the company?
What'd they do?
They went and got Shaq.
Oh, I got you.
Shaq is...
He's the spokesperson.
The ultimate spokesperson, and he was out front, and Papa John's is enjoying great success now. And I think the Shaquille O'Neal influence and impact there when they were in a time of need. Now, when The Rock was made a board member, technically none of this was out there, but that changed 3 or 4 days later. So it does make me wonder, are they going to use The Rock almost as like their Shaquille O'Neal?
Don't all signs point to that, Conrad? And I get it. It's all hypothetical. Here's something that right now, Conrad, WrestleMania, help me out. It's going to be on Peacock.
Yeah.
Where else in the United States? Only on Peacock. Is it on? Is it going to be?
It has been in years past. You could buy it on DirecTV and such.
Okay. So there's direct revenue involved.
A tiny amount.
Okay, so it's tiny.
Minuscule.
Well, again, if you kind of look back, and I mean, you've had so many different conversations about that and screenshots.
The opportunity is the sponsorship. Like that's and merch.
Well, I think merch, but is it too late in the game? Sponsorship deals don't happen overnight.
They might for The Rock.
Okay. So now we're talking about something that's going to move that app on our phone known as the stock ticker. Will the stock be affected by Rock's involvement this year?
Will he also cut deals for his other brands to be a part of WWE programming?
Okay.
Like if you recall, whenever Conor McGregor would fight in the UFC, they'd be promoting his whiskey and all of his other ventures. It would not surprise me to see
every wrestler in the shirts of Under Armour,
and every wrestling fan hearing about their favorite new tequila. And maybe there's, people who were ringside who play professional football for the XFL, or I'm just saying there is going to be, if you think that's not happening, like
UFL.
Oh, it's rebranded now. You're exactly right.
It's the merger, XFL and whatever the one was. UFL.
Well, listen, here's what I know. I know that
there's so many moving parts currently going on. Today, we did talk about Sting. Wembley, that's a whole nother, we talked about the last 12 months. A lot of moving parts in the AEW world. But we literally have just talked about the last 3 or 4 days, Conrad.
Yeah, I do want to talk about AEW's TV deal and how Netflix could be affected. And we still got to talk about the real big news. But before we do, we should remind everybody that the WWE is going down under to Perth for Elimination Chamber.
Gosh.
The Rock, when the world shut down during COVID, The Rock shot a lot of his stuff in Australia. So he had an opportunity to get, pretty dialed in that part of the world. It makes me wonder, will we see The Rock do something in Elimination Chamber? And I bet the answer is yes. And I don't know for sure that he's going to Australia, but I know for sure I am. Starcast Down Under, April 11th through April 14th, Ballarat, Victoria, Australia. It's our first ever international Starcast. And boy, are we pulling out the big guns. How about Bret Hart is coming down under? Not just to do a stage show, but that's right. Bret Hart and I are going to be on stage together. This will be the first time that's happened. I can't wait to pick his brain. And he's also got a wrestling show that weekend. The Australian Stampede, Bret Hart's Australian Stampede, a super card of wrestlers from all around the world. And oh yeah, there's an all women's show. Mickie James, she's coming and presenting HER, her. It's an all women's show, not one, but 2 wrestling shows, plus all your favorite stage shows and panel discussions. I can't wait to be on stage with Bret and talk about the 30th anniversary of his WrestleMania 10 match with his brother Owen. We're going to have meet and greets galore. You'll be able to meet all your favorites, see the matches, watch the shows. Starcast.com has your tickets on sale. Make plans to join us. Starcast Down Under, April 11th through April 14th at STARRCAST.com, Starcast.com. That we talked about Netflix and we kind of moved on. I know we've still got to talk about the unfortunate news with Vince and all the ugliness that exists there. But before we do you think there are any changes that AEW or other wrestling television programming will be affected based on this Netflix decision? What I mean is, for better or worse, WWE has always sort of been the leader in the space, and you follow a lot of their best practices if you want to be successful in this area. So where WWE had strong television to sell pay-per-views, everyone else wanted to do the same. They moved away from pay-per-views and lots of people started to spin up their apps. And now the app seemingly is going away. No more network. And not only that, no more free television. Do you think there's a scenario where AEW doesn't maintain a television presence and winds up on an app, or is that premature for the rest of the industry at this point? Because even WWE is maintaining a presence with both NXT on CW and USA being the home for SmackDown. Does this affect or create new opportunity for AEW at all?
I think not only AEW, but all professional wrestling. Conrad, and I'll just hammer myself here, the TNA concept from day one, pay-per-view every week. Look, we could throw 1,000 holes into it, but getting outside of broadcast television, and then you just kind of look at all the different forms of how the business progresses. And I got laughed at, and I guess it was 2014. I think I said the boom's coming, because in essence, I was saying professional wrestling from day one, taught to me by my grandmother, you can create content relatively inexpensive that gets numbers. That's the whole basis of everything. Well, when you look at all the different shows that are made for Amazon and Apple and Netflix and blah, 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 they're expensive to produce. They just are. And it's kind of a hit and miss. It's very hard to get a hit. And I think it becomes harder and harder and harder because there's more and more content being produced. Now that Netflix said, hey, we're going this way, I think there's opportunities. Now they're going to open up today. Maybe not. I think it's going to be a progression, but yes, I think it blows doors wide open because nobody, I don't want to say Hollywood because that's almost a dated term, but none of the executives, their job protective. I don't say job scared, but they don't want to make a decision and the company that they work for look at it and go, hey, this guy made this decision. It lost millions and millions and millions. This guy's a moron. It's got to go. Nobody wants to take that risk. It's the entrepreneurs of the world that end up taking the risk and moving forward. We're look at Netflix. They took a DVD business and flipped it on its edge, and by design, their DNA structure is built on taking risks. I think the older they've gotten and more mature they've gotten, I think they've more and more calculated risk and more calculated risk. And you better believe that Nick Khan and his whole team of data analytics and Netflix and all their decision makers and all their data analytics, they crunch the numbers over and over and over. But they came up and said, hey, we think this 3-hour program that gets about 1.5 million viewers every Monday, oh, it's worth 10 million. What? So I definitely think that AEW and New Japan and maybe All Japan and CMLL and maybe AAA and maybe a promotion out of UK or maybe a promotion pop up in India. But as far as professional wrestling and streaming live, the door's been blown wide open. It's not going to go back. You're not going to put the toothpaste back in the tube. We're moving forward, and yes, it's going to open doors for AEW and others. It's who's going to be smart about it to continue to make it profitable. And that's, again, that's what all business is built around, creating revenue that's profitable.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with wrestling television rights and just the way it's positioned. You know, will we see more go to streaming services? Will we see some exist simply on YouTube?
Well, not to cut you off, but I think that term's kind of been thrown around that, oh, hybrid. And on the one hand, I kind of went, now, wait a minute. That's not going to be anything new. I mean, for the last, I don't know, for sure 10 years, WWE, well, they've been off and on network, but they've been on network TV. They've been on cable television. They've produced digital shows out the wazoo. They had the WWE network. Their big deal with AEW. So they've produced, you know, that, I mean, not AEW. WWE's produced A&E network specials. They've been multi-tiered and multi-platform for years.
Forever.
They just, it's how the business has been way back in the day. 93. Yeah. Cause we did them for a long time. We did Monday Night Raw on Mondays. We did Superstars on Tuesdays and Challenge on Wednesdays. Well, what do you mean, Jeff? Okay. So Monday was a cable program. Tuesday and Wednesday were, local network, some on U channels, some on V channels, and then they would take a hybrid of that and sell it internationally. So our wrestling business has always been hybrid, at least since cable television days. So I just believe now you throw in the streaming services that you can monetize it. And look, our old pal YouTube is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger with more and more eyeballs and more eyeballs. And Mr. Beast is going to keep ringing that cash register.
No doubt about it. We, unfortunately, I guess it's that time of the show where we need to talk about the ugliness of the last few days. Did you read all 67 pages?
No, sir.
It's, dark. Not what I expected. And there's so many questions coming out of it. You know, I don't really even know how to talk about this, Jeff, because I feel like I'm having trouble just reconciling it in my head. I feel like I've kind of been in a head funk, if I'm honest with you, Jeff, since Thursday when I read it. I was actually on my way to Tampa when I got the news by text. A friend of ours sent me a screen grab, and then I went and found the actual court document and downloaded it to my phone and read it on the way to Tampa. And by the time I landed, I was like, I don't know how to reconcile my fandom with all of this. Because on the one hand, like, I think most of us really, really like professional wrestling, or we wouldn't be recording this podcast or listening to this podcast. And he being Vince McMahon, pronouns pal, was such a big part of that. I mean, you kind of give him credit for a lot of it. And then you read all of that stuff in black and white, and you're like, what am I doing with my life? What in the world? Like, it's got all over me. And I know that he's responded and said that it's a bunch of lies and he's going to fight it and defend his reputation. But he's done. I just don't see a scenario where Vince McMahon can not only never return to WWE or for that matter, professional wrestling, I mean, he can't be a public person anymore. I don't think. Would you agree with that? I mean, who wants to do business with him? He is the definition of toxic right now. No.
Oh, I mean, that is an appropriate word for January the 29th, 2024. You know, over the last couple of years, Conrad, I don't even know really where to start, and it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
In so many ways, knowing the relationship that my father had with his father.
Right.
So it really does go back, and my grandmother thought so highly of Vince's father, and, you know, kicking and screaming, she understood the magnitude of the early WrestleManias, if you will, and me going to work for them, and her little questions, you making good money? And I'd say, Teeny, you have no idea. You know, it was a completely different foreign world. And so when I go on my set point there, and like I said, over the last couple of years, Conrad, I look at life completely different. I have really gotten into Stoicism philosophy and going back thousands of years and on just life. And one thing's for sure is change and the yin and the yang, and there's no such thing as all good and no such thing as good, all evil. And just, Conrad, but the screenshots that I read, it was toxic. It was unbelievable, from hard to wrap my head around all of it.
Yes.
Knowing, and look, my opinion is subjective, and however much credit you want to give him or the family or the WWF and the team, and going back, Vince acquiring it from a gorilla and the other two, and it just, the history of it all. Everybody looks at this completely different, and there's a Twitter voice and an Instagram voice, and they are different, and a Facebook voice, and the mainstream media voice, and old school, new school. But no matter where you sit on it, it is disturbing. And for all intents purposes, it's the end of an era. And it is a new day in the professional wrestling business. And look, it's the magnitude and how it's gone down. And look, you can't subtract any one component of, I mean, we talked a little bit about on this, Georgia Michelle on the board, off the board, and Nick Khan in, and the change in leadership, and off and on, off and on. And, you know, everyone knew at some point that Vince was gonna, and the joke was he's gonna, die in that seat. Just because he even said that, just the evolution of the WWE and where it goes, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And we've talked about the very cool things of Rock sitting on the board and Nick Khan and Netflix and all this, but the tragedy of how the man, Vince McMahon, sits today, it's unbelievable, Conrad.
It is like
it's so, again. And look, I would be remiss without saying this. He who without sin cast the first stone. And that's what my faith tells me.
right.
But my goodness, Connie.
Yeah.
It's like you said at the beginning, I don't have words for it. I really don't.
I think before we get too far into the discussion, we need to say that it took a lot of bravery on the victim's part to come out with this. And I know there's a bunch of Looney Tunes online who are going to victim blame and laugh and defend Vince. Man, if you read all 67 pages, I think you'd disagree. Like, I mean, I am a wrestling fan because of Vince McMahon's creations. He was our Walt Disney, and now that's all done, man. Like, it feels like he's got to sort of be erased from WWE history. I mean, I understand if people, call for him to quote unquote be Benoit, but you think back to like that WrestleMania 20 Open. You see Vince's grandfather and Vince's dad and Vince, and now Shane, and now there's Shane's son who now plays college football. And to think that the McMahon lineage now, by and large, is going to be erased from this company. Like, I just felt like that was going to be such a part of this company forever and ever. Amen. I mean, we even saw Shane's son do an interview a few months ago about who was going to run WWE. Would it be him or one of Hunter's kids? Like, and I guess some of that could still happen, but boy, it is just way different. And to know the way Vince felt about his dad and his father and the pride and the McMahon family crest being on the championship belts on down the line. I know this sounds crazy, but on some level, like, I know Vince wanted to be a billionaire. And when that graphic came out, his profile photo or portrait with TKO, and he had the little mustache, people joked he looked like a movie villain. But now his reputation, dude, his legacy. I mean, what's the difference between being worth 500 million and $1 billion? Your quality of life doesn't change. You can only drive so nice of a car and fly so nice of a jet and live in so nice of a house and eating so nice of a steak. You sort of max out. But legacy is what a lot of these guys are, still working for in their advanced stages. And now that's irreparable, I'm afraid.
Well, I have been taught that if you are still breathing,
there you go.
Nothing is irreparable.
I love talking to you, the delusional optimist.
Well, I mean, I have just this morning at 7:30, Conrad, I heard a story that would make the hair on your neck stand straight up, and you would say, I said this. Only by the grace of God is this gentleman sitting in his chair today. There isn't any logical explanation. There's no way I can stretch it and make it a sci-fi, Hollywood, nothing other than, okay, God stepped into this gentleman's life, and look at him today. So I say that to say it is a very dark day in Vince's life, but it ain't over till it's over.
Well, man, I would love to see some sort of way to find a silver lining.
Yeah.
I really struggled with that because I didn't know what that was. I mean, it's clear that, and I don't want to hammer names here, so I'm just going to say the victim. It's clear that she's going to get paid, and Vince will write a check punitively. I mean, I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I don't understand all that. I mean, I don't.
But the word traffic being used in a civil suit caught me off guard, and that WWE was named, not good. And we've heard a few months ago that allegedly the feds raided Vince's house. Feds aren't usually involved in civil suits, so this feels like there could be more to follow. And I guess what I'm trying to hope for, I'm hoping, as unrealistic as this sounds, I'd like to be the delusional optimist, think the best of people, and I'd hope that these are isolated incidents. I would hope that this really horrible behavior started when he was in his 70s. I would hope that there wouldn't be a whole bunch of new accusations come forward like we saw in the past with really powerful people like Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein. But I gave up on Santa Claus a few years ago. I just feel like it's obvious that there's going to be more. And I hate that because, and I want to talk about this because I know you have a unique experience with this. I think on some level, when you read those 67 pages, when you pick your jaw up off the floor, your takeaway will be there's some mental illness at play here. And I don't know if you heard about it, but 5 or 6 years ago, there was talk and discussion of making a Vince McMahon movie, and he was working with some script writers, and some people got their hands on those rough drafts. And in the early formative years of Vince's life, boy, he suffered greatly in the sexual trauma department. And it doesn't feel like it was ever maybe properly addressed. And now maybe he's just lived with it his entire life. I'm not trying to make Vince the victim here. I'm just saying, I hope that because that used to not be a conversation, Jeff. People didn't talk about stuff like this. Now with mental health, I mean, I don't even remember hearing that when I was a kid, mental health.
No.
So we're getting better. We need to have more conversations, but I don't know how we get to where those documents were without some sort of mental illness. I'm saying all that to say, I'm really proud that she spoke up and came forward. It took a lot of bravery. I hope if there's anyone else who's been affected in the same way, they'll do the same. But I hope most importantly, we try to be better. This hasn't happened yet, and I hope it doesn't. But boy, 25 years ago, it became real in fashion to make Monica Lewinsky jokes. That was not cool then, and it's not cool now. And I hope we don't do that here.
It's sick.
And I understand you're not thinking about everybody else involved. Because when Vince was, in his mind, only, quote unquote, hurting this victim, man, as sad as and scary as this sounds now, his actual wife has to read this, his daughter, his grandkids, people he's done business with, lifelong friends. Like, I want to be on your line of thinking. I want to find that silver lining. I want to hope there is a way that he can turn this around and redeem himself. But I hope
there is.
I hope that those around him find a way to move on and move forward and find the peace and contentment that everyone strives for. But golly, what an insurmountable task. And in the scheme of things, how silly is it to even talk about wrestling, which is why I want to do this at the end, because it's going to be real hard for me to get excited about talking about, does Cody win at WrestleMania? Because yes, it's important, but my goodness, man, the collateral damage of professional wrestling, I don't think has ever really been examined the way it's about to be examined in the coming months. It's crazy. 2024, dude. What the fuck?
It's only the 29th.
I mean, Bill Belichick's gone from the Patriots. Nick Saban's retired. Vince McMahon's out of WWE. Taylor Swift's in the Super Bowl. I'm in more wrestling Hall of Fames than Vince McMahon will ever be now. What?
I knew it. I mean, it's life. I mean, one thing is for certain, change.
Yeah.
You never know where it's going to come. I mean, nobody had it on their bingo card for, oh God, so many different things. I'm not only going to address the Vince situation on that. Just, you just never know what life's going to bring at you. And it really, I don't know, Connie. I don't even know really. Yeah, you said it. Not a lot of gumption. I love my world listeners. I love interacting with them in person, online, text, blah, 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 blah. This episode, it is the business. I don't think we're being dramatic. It's changed forever in not all negative ways. There's a lot of positive in there. But it is a new day, but nobody, it is kind of, it's hard for me to wrap my head around all of it. I used the term that I learned 6 years ago. Let's process this. If you process things and really am honest with yourself, there becomes kind of a light on certain things, and you go, okay, well, there's only one thing left to do. Roll up your sleeves and go to work. And there's a lot of work with a lot of folks that are in front of them. That's not going to be easy. It's just not. I mean,
I hate it too, because it feels like there's probably more than one divorce as a result of this.
Oh Lord.
Probably lots of lawsuits, probably lots of settlements.
Oh boy.
And you got to assume there's criminal stuff too. I just, golly, man, and I know that for Benoit, people would say, can you separate the art from the artist? That's going to be hard for me on this one, man. Because, I think I was able to reconcile the Benoit stuff. I hate to make such a comparison because I realize they're different things. But when I think about sort of persona non grata in wrestling, it's got to be them now above maybe all others. But I want to think that was CTE and that wasn't really him and yada, yada, yada. I don't know how to do that with Vince yet.
Time changes. I've got personal experience. I mean, look, if we're going to get really peeling the layers of the onion back, and that's what recovery was all about for me. And I'm not talking about just the last 6 years. I'm talking about my earliest childhood memories were discussed. And I mean, really peeling the layers of the onion back and understanding that it didn't take me 6 months to walk into this mess. It took me 30 years to really unpack. It took me a lot of times to walk into the dark place that I got myself in 2017. I mean, a lot of years. Multiple times should have been dead. Multiple times. I don't want to get into all that, but I mean, it didn't happen overnight. So you're not going to walk back out of the woods overnight either. It's time. It is a fascinating process, but nothing happens unless you make the decision, I'm changing. And I'm not talking about Vince. I'm talking about all parties involved. What are you going to do to make a positive change?
I hope that if any wrestling fan who comes across this story or is a wrestling fan who's reading about it or listening to our podcast and they're going through some pretty brutal stuff with sexual abuse. They know about RAINN. It's an organization that Mick Foley's very familiar with. It's RAINN.org. But they have a 24/7 helpline. If you're going through it right now, 1-800-656-HOPE is the number. That's 1-800-656-HOPE. Man, this is we're not qualified to be talking about this, but
no,
I just feel so awful. I feel awful for her and everyone else involved. You know, like, I know that right now people on social media are out with their pitchforks, and I get that, as they should be. People should be outraged. That's the proper response. But I felt bad for Hunter when he had to read those documents, or I guess he didn't read them, but knowing that one day he's got a house full of girls that are going to read that stuff about their grandpa. That's not cool. He's got a wife who's going to read that about her dad. That ain't cool. And then he has to go out there and tell everybody that this was a great gate and we signed The Rock and we're on Netflix, and oh yeah, none of that matters. But he also can't comment because it's a freaking ongoing legal thing, and I'm sure he's not supposed to do that, but it's not like, I mean, that dude knows how to promote wrestling events and tell wrestling stories and put together matches, and now he's being asked to go do crisis management stuff. Man, this is just, it's a tough spot for everybody involved, man.
Yep.
And there's no fun or easy way for us to put a button on this show or talk about this topic, but I knew if we didn't talk about it, people would say, well, why aren't you talking about it? So we need to talk about it. Conrad,
when you say we're going to talk about the world of professional wrestling, I said, oh boy, we got a lot to talk about. I didn't know we'd talk the whole, the magnitude of the situation, the magnitude of what happened over the last 7 days, positive and negative, really hit home about the hour mark of this podcast, Conrad. That is
forever changed, man.
It's in my gut. And look, I was, you know, on a personal note, Rock getting put on the board, I thought that was so damn cool. I was surprised that he didn't get already have his trademark on the Rock list. The Netflix deal was something that I go, wow, kudos to the industry. 10 million every Monday. Yep. The value of it, just all of those things. And look, when I say our AEW Sting's deal, it's going to be a beautiful night. Wembley, we're still months away, but I never want to discount Wembley Stadium. It's the magnitude of that. You know, the grind of Dynamite and Rampage and Collision, I wouldn't take nothing for it. It just, you know, we've got new executives on board, and I truly believe we're going to the next stage of growth for the company. The entrepreneurial spirit in me is running rampant. The business keeps growing. The CML relationship is cool. You're going to Australia, all that kind of stuff. But, and look, I knew we had to touch on the negative part out of it. But look, and I shared this with you a little before we came on, you know, the lineage of the territory promoters, Don Owens, Shires, the Von Erichs, Bill Watts, the Crockett's, the Grahams. We could, you know, some different promoters and all that, but all the lineage of the territory promoters when they were 22, you know, always looked at a McMahon as they going back multiple generations. What was I think Saturday was the first day that there hadn't been a McMahon in the industry.
Yes.
Since what?
The 50s.
Yeah. Just the magnitude of the last 7 days. It's amazing.
It is amazing. And it's weird because it's sort of, you know, you and I talked about it before when the merger went down and it was now TKO and Vince wasn't really the boss anymore. You sort of said to me off air, it's the end. That is the official end of the territories. Now this is really it.
Yeah.
for better or worse, it is a corporate wrestling world now with WWE. AEW still, I guess, a family organization. And on some level, maybe the Aspers are too with TNA. But goodness gracious, man. I just, it's hard to reconcile. Not only is Vince McMahon out, he ain't ever coming back. He ain't even welcome. Like, I don't think McMahon can attend shows. I don't think he can walk the halls of the building anymore. It's weird.
Yeah.
And that's not even what's important. We should be talking about this lady's story and all that she went through. But as uncomfortable as it was to read, I can't imagine how uncomfortable it was to go through it. I don't want to go through all those details ever again. I'll never read that document again. I can't imagine what she's going through. And I don't know, man. This is a weird my world because I feel like for once I'm out of my depth. Well, I'm sure it's happened before several times on this show, but it's like normally we're just, poking fun at bad wrestling and making fun of some shoddy reporting here or there. And
a bit.
We had that one over again. And
I like to, me and you get into our business discussions. Today was a different episode.
It was, but I felt like, it's one that we need to do. And again, I want to say again, if you're dealing with some of that or somebody in your life is, I don't want them to think that they don't have help or help's not there. That's not the case. RAINN.org. RAIN is the organization, or you can call them at 1-800-656-HOPE. That's 1-800-656-4673.
Conrad?
Yes, sir.
I'm coming from a place of love here.
Yes, sir.
I just cut you off on the numbers. Finish the numbers and then come back.
I'm done.
Yeah. RAINN.org. But anyway, so that's from the victims, and they're first and foremost.
Yes.
But if you have, from my experience, when I was in active addiction, I was the one that was the tornado. I'm trying to say how this different. If you are the tornado in what's going on, no matter gambling, alcohol, whatever it may be, there is a way out. Get help. You cannot do it alone. I always use the analogy. Have you ever tried to get in a canoe by yourself? It's impossible. You can't do it. You're going to turn the canoe over. You got to have help. You got to have somebody pull you in the boat. There's plenty of people out there that are ready right now to help you. I just urge anybody, if you're a tornado in your life right now, get help, please.
Well said, Jeff. We're going to be back playing grab ass next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. We will talk about Jerry Lawler next week. Talk about those classic Memphis angles. And of course, we got to talk about the best punch in wrestling, all that and more next week here on the program. If you've got a question, we're still going to accept those, even though we're doing it a week later. So fire down on us. It's at Real Jeff JArrett, at Hey, it's Conrad, at Hey, it's Conrad Thompson over on IG. But the show is at My World Pod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And it's so easy to keep up with what we're doing over on YouTube. It's My World on YouTube.com. Got a lot of great merch available as well over at boxofgimmicks.com. And if you'd like to advertise your product or service here on the show, that's easy. It's advertisewithjarrett.com. And Jeff, on that note, I say we put a button on today's episode, one of our more challenging episodes in history, talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of WWE in the last week. But wrestling is supposed to be a fun escape. So I hope everyone enjoyed Monday Night Raw last night, and I hope you tuned in to NXT tonight. But certainly be sure to set your DVR so you can watch it over and over again. I saw a spoiler earlier today that Samoa Joe is going to be defending his title against you.
Oh, stop it, Conrad. Conrad, let's end on man, this was an emotional deal.
It was a weird deal.
Let's just end on a little fun note. Niners or Chiefs? Who do you got, pal?
It's Taylor Swift's world. We're just living in it.
Amen.
I mean, that's it. Like, who would have thought your babysitter would be the most famous
football personality.
Yeah, like the girl who used to babysit your kids is getting a Super Bowl ring in 2 weeks.
Oh, Lord, stop it.
Wild. All right, tune in. Jeff's winning the world title on Wednesday. Spoilers, you heard it here first. Clickbait that, and we'll see you next week right here on My World.
Peace.